My goodness! Incredible! This is
The Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 130 of The Grove Podcast. Now, I hope you're all doing very well and in fine fettle. It's Sunday, the morning after the night before, and life is pretty good from an Arsenal's perspective as we beat Fulham and we are top of the league. So, yeah, what's not to like? And joining me this fine morning is Jamie. Jamie, how are you? And how much fun would it be if all our goals for the rest of the season came from set pieces?
I mean, it'd be nice and predictable at least, wouldn't it? That'd be, you'd know when to get excited and when not to get excited. Not that it doesn't already sometimes feel a little bit like that anyway.
Yeah, I thought it'd be funny just because it would annoy so many people. It would just piss so many people off, and I would be here for it all day because apparently set piece goals don't count and they're not a part of football. And all I can say, well, if it was that easy, why isn't everyone else doing it at such regularity? So go and look at yourselves rather than try and criticise us, which is often the case with criticism. It's more a reflection on who's doing the criticism than the people being criticised. But there we go. We'll get into that a bit later. So look, in today's show, we'll review the 1-0 win at Craven Cottage, as well as preview our Champions League game against Atletico Madrid on Tuesday, rather than Wednesday. I was taken aback by that, and Tuesday. So we'll do that. As always, before we get on, you can like, follow, subscribe, rate, leave a comment, all the usual stuff on the podcast apps. Really appreciate that. So would be appreciated. Right, let's get on with the main stuff. So as always, what was your highlight and low light from the Fulham game?
Do you know what? I thought the highlight whilst I was watching the game is going to be a really
that does help.
It'd be a bit of a weird one. There was one particular moment which I just really, really enjoyed because the ball looped up at one stage, and I think it was, I can't remember who
Trossard
put the ball across to him. Was it Trossard?
It was Trossard control.
No, it's not Trossard's control I'm looking for. No.
Oh, okay.
So the ball looped up at one point over the box and came to Saka, who had, I think, Alex Iwobi straight in front of him, and then whoever their left back was, Robinson, and just brings the ball down, just controls the ball absolutely beautifully with like just the most magical little touch, and it was quite funny because it was one of those where he controlled it so well, and they did a bit of slow-mo on it. And then he seems to shift his body about 5 times before either one of the two defenders in front of him are able to work out the fact that he's actually got the ball under control and respond to it. And it comes to absolutely nothing. It doesn't even come to a corner. I thought it had, but Robinson, I think...
Robinson wasn't playing. It was Cuenca or something like that. Robinson was out injured. It was someone else.
Yeah. Okay.
I know on that side. No, it was Sessegnon on that side. Sorry, it was Sessegnon on the side.
It was Ryan Sessegnon.
Yeah,
that's
Sessegnon.
Yeah. So Sessegnon, it bounces off him and then back on the Saka.
Yeah.
Right. But that moment of control was one of those like really, really lovely, sort of wow, what a footballer kind of moments. That I think you don't necessarily see as often with us because you don't see raking balls all the time. So, for whatever reason, that is my highlight, which probably also says something about the rest of the game.
I think the ball was spinning as well. I think I remember it now, and they particularly mentioned it, and it's the fact that he makes it look so easy.
I love that sort of stuff. I just absolutely adore like that kind of Bergkamp was wonderful at it. Zidane was wonderful. That sort of moment we just it just
brings it under has it under his spell, as they say. Control.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And so I thought because Trossard did something similar, but he was more in the middle of the field, and it was again another one from cross field. It was really high ball, and just the way they just kill it dead, and it just enables them to move quickly on to the next bit. If that was us, I don't think we could pass it as far as we could trap it, scenario. So, it's one of those ones that goes away. So cool. Oh, that's a nice one. I like that. Okay. And we'll talk about Saka later because he was the star of the show yesterday. And your low light?
Low light. it's kind of, I think it's quite hard to pick. The general malaise of the game. The fact my low light is going to be, I had the most relaxed Saturday that I've had in months and months and months yesterday, and I sat. I was really looking forward to it, and I just had a series of disappointments. I watched a crap film. First time I watched a film in the afternoon in a long while. Mrs. was out working yesterday as well. Yeah. She was filming something. It was a crap film. There was a crap documentary that I'd really thought was going to be decent, and then it was a really crap game of football that was going to be decent. So that's just it's not that we were crap particularly. It's not about our performance. It's about the fact that as a spectacle, the game was a bit ropey. Let's face it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Lacking in quality in places, which is again, I think, why the smaller moments of quality that occurred kind of stand out. In fact, I did think to myself a few times, especially in the first half, it was very much mutual. There were a lot of misplaced passes from both teams. It felt like a lot of the ball just bouncing off to the right player a lot of the time. Harry Wilson does seem to be an absolute magnet for any time a ball's sort of bouncing off a limb somehow, it ends up in his path. But then very fortunately wasn't able to do all that much with it a lot of the time. Yeah. But it did make him look probably more threatening than he was a lot of the time, because it just felt like the ball would just find its way out to that side in that particular game. But yeah, it was just missing a lot of quality, I thought, and you didn't really see the best of either team. No. Even if we did see I thought Fulham were on it, we didn't see them at their actual best, because they weren't really able to do anything killer.
No, I agree. Yeah, you're right. It did feel like, just the ball would break always to them in when those 50, when you're going for the 50-50, it was always going to them. And it happens like that. And actually, I was
sometimes, and maybe you make it with your reactions and how up for it you are, is the way that I look at it a lot of the time. But for whatever reason, it's just a very bitty game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask this question later, so I might as well bring it now. And it sort of ties in with that. It's like, where do you stand on the boring, in inverted criticism, and people also conflating and wrongly with people saying, oh, you think you're really good but you're boring. Well, you can be boring and good, people, you could, it's not like if you're boring it means you're rubbish. So but it's more a case of and it's often from neutrals, but do you care? Does it matter that we have this sort of boring tag, or Stoke FC and set piece FC and all that? There's a criticism about open play goals and stuff, but does it matter? Do you care?
I mean, it's a foundation, isn't it? It's sort of foundation. A lot of Arsenal successes. It's how I was raised, to be honest.
George Graham 1-0 to the Arsenal.
And then on top of that, some of the most significant managers at the Arsenal being defensive. Or even Herbert Chapman, his innovation is to go, what if we put some like a third player in defence? Woo, like that was a thing. And we've always been that sort of team. And then we got Wenger, and we became all champagne football and stuff.
And then we went in the opposite direction.
I think actually, if anything, I think we're very, 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 very good at doing what a lot of teams are doing now, which is having a structure and then working everything out from there. It is that sort of structured approach to the game is endemic within English football these days. It's extremely tactical, especially in comparison to everybody talks about Barclays years or whatever they want to go on about, but the comparison to English football 20 years ago, or even as little as I would say kind of 10 years ago, is really, really stark. You have to be structured. There's a huge amount of emphasis on off the ball, and that is probably it's all a bit of a post-Pep thing, right? And ultimately we happen to be, I think, at the moment, the best in the league off the ball, and as a result, you probably do see a lot less entertaining stuff on the ball sometimes with that now, I think. And I think that was the case with Pep City. There was phenomenal quality and there were some lovely moments, but also as well, I used to get a little bit bored with them at times. I used to get bored with Messi's Barcelona. There is something about the overall stylistic kind of qualities of a lot of the top teams these days are nowhere near as fun as they once were. And there is a big part of me that would love to see that like true, fun side of football kind of come back out a little bit. But it at the moment, it's a little bit in the box. You have great moments, but overall, football is not the end-to-end action spectacular that it might well have been at some of the time. And you go back and you watch some of the Wenger stuff, which I do at times, and you look at the spaces that we played in, they just don't exist.
Yeah,
they just do not exist. Nobody.
That's the thing.
And this is not even they don't exist because people defend deep against us or anything like that. They don't exist in most Premier League games now, unless teams lose the head. They do not. You don't see them because they're great athletes. Nobody's ever knackered. You never get a Thierry Henry used to put people on the ropes at times, didn't he? And score goals in the 60th and 65th minute when he was still athletic. Well, when his incredible athleticism and talent showed up even more because at that point he'd sort of mentally and physically broken down his opponent. And you don't really see that so much anymore. I don't think. It is so much more of a game of chess, and the players are so much more equal. It is all about these finer moments, and as a result, I think we get labelled with the boring stuff. But if you watch Liverpool earlier this season, I don't think they're any more entertaining in their games at all.
No, but they just happen to score more goals and let in more goals, which for the neutral is what they want to see. Look. I mean, for me, they're trying to find a criticism. So if the worst they can find is you're boring, fine. I don't care. And look, I do agree we are not the best team to watch as a neutral. And I liked your with the comparison with Pep's years. Yeah, we all got bored with watching Pep, and they won stuff. So there was a bit of an element of jealousy there, I would suggest. But also, it was just boring to watch. But they won stuff, so who cares? I don't really care what the neutral thinks. Screw them. But also, I think we can only play, and I think it touches your point, we can only play games that the teams we're playing against allow us to play. Fulham part the bus in essence, and the only opportunities they got was because we're in the transition and because we were being sloppy. They didn't create anything. And if we had been on it from the beginning, it was just like defense against attack sort of thing. And so free-flowing, open attacking football is not easy when you're facing 11 men on the edge of the box. It just doesn't happen. No team can happen. So that happens. So and teams know how to frustrate us, and that's what it is. And also, we're a miserly defense, so we don't give anything away. So there's no jeopardy. Also, on the other end of it, we don't want basketball games because as a manager, you want to be in control as much as possible. So I'm sure these basketball games, I guess there were teams that do say, okay, we'll be a bit more open. We'll allow ourselves to be a bit more open to attack more. But yeah, I think it's just the nature, I think, way things are going. And so I would just say, sod the neutral. And look, if teams do try and play us and leave space, we kill them. We do. Yeah, we got the 7-1 against PSV, 5-1 against Sporting Lisbon. This year 3-0 against Forest, 5-0 against Leeds, or whichever way round it was. So when teams do open or they do fatigue or whatever, we can put them away. So, but when you're playing against teams that are defensively sound, it's never going to be. But the criticism's on us, as opposed to the opposition who come in and say, well, where's the criticism for Fulham for not trying to play Arsenal? You say, well, anyone would go, well, why would you? That would be a dumb move, Silva. He's done exactly what he thinks he has to do because that's the best way he thinks his team will get a result against Arsenal, And you saw towards the end of the game when they did start to open up again, then they were exposed and we were getting through, and maybe we could have got the second and third goal. But he's not going to do that from minute one. He'll do it from the 70th minute. But then, so it's one of those ones that it's just they're trying to find things to wind us up, and like let them. I'm not fussed at all. So in terms of my highlight and low light, and I think you alluded to what I just said at the beginning, was my highlight was it was another set piece goal to win the game. We found a way. And I, in particular, like what sort of Silva said afterwards in the Sky post-match interview, where he said they set themselves up and had done quite a good job in defending corners most of the match, but in the end, our quality and with our players, it's so hard to stay focused on every set piece interaction, just to repeat that and so on. And then in the end, it something had to give, and yeah, it was a classic in swinging corner. Big G had two big men marking him. He still got past them, headed the ball, and Trossard with a tricky finish off his knee, which wasn't easy. So yeah, that was a highlight that we found a way. And even Sanderberg from Fulham, he said again about pressure eventually telling. Said the pressure was too much, and they got their goal. They're extremely good on their set pieces. We prepared well, but in the end, we didn't manage to keep the goal out. So, and as I said, it counts like any other goal, and you've got to find a way. And as I said, if it's that easy, why isn't everyone doing it? So, and the fact that it annoys people, it's just jealousy. It's just trying to find something to poke you with. So yeah, when teams set themselves up like Fulham, it's an opportunity that we got to take, and we just happen to be very good at it. So, and why be dismissive of it? You had Ange Postecoglou last year. Oh, I don't bother with set pieces. Well, maybe you should. Yeah. Because it's a great way to get a goal. So, but there we go. My low light was not getting the second goal. We should have had an opportunity with the penalty, which we'll get to later, but it just made the game feel a bit closer, nervy than it actually was, or than it needed to be. And then I think this brings me to the second point around Victor Gyokeres, and I'm sure you'll have a view on this. It was a very decisive performance, I think, from him, and I'm seeing both sides of the coin from many people. What were your thoughts on his performance? And I'm not putting it as a low light, but I'm just sort of putting it in there in connection with to not getting the second goal, and so his performance will come up in this and all the rest of it. So, what did you make of Victor last night?
Again, he ran around and he worked hard, and he did his pardon, and he wasn't inside without his merit, because the kind of work that he does is sometimes quite selfless. So I don't want to criticise him, but certainly again it was another game where I looked at him when I really would like, I think, a different profile mainly in that position, especially early on. We had a lot of crosses going in and around. There was a couple of times where even outside of the area, even in midfield, he was trying to contest for balls, and he doesn't. I don't really feel like he contests very well, especially not in the air. And that's my major issue with him at the moment. Is like I think we did need somebody that was able to do that as well. And he worked hard. There was a moment early on as well. It seemed like the ball was kind of taking forever to drop down at some point. Muscling around with a couple of players, and he got beat on that one as well. But he gave it a real go. He's trying to use his physicality, but he doesn't feel like he's anywhere near an expert in using his physicality. Again, I think I said a couple of weeks back, I have this feeling that I want to ruin this team. Somebody that knows how to use their body, but also has an immaculate touch as well. I don't need an athlete up front, sort of thing. And as a result, it just made me think all the way through that the unfair comp for him is Kai Havertz and what he does. And Havertz has his failings too. Havertz probably dropped off a little bit too much. He has his failings. However, he knows how to use his body quite well. He's a strong lad, and he knows what he's doing with it, and he's good in the air. And very similarly as well, we've just watched the defensive midfielder play at that position for like 6 months at the end of last season, and he knew how to use his body, and he's absolutely phenomenal in the air. And both of them as well can both play back to goal. And those were all the kind of things again that you saw from him that I just went, yeah, there's still a player there. I just don't think in our kind of normal way of playing with this team that we utilise that whatsoever. And obviously there was a lot of talk over the summer about changing your style to adapt to Gyokeres. I just don't think he's good enough to change your entire style for. That's my concern. I don't think this is I mean, it's okay if it's Erling Haaland and you say we go more direct because we've got Erling Haaland. I don't think he's ever going to be Erling Haaland. He's a poor man's Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
So as a result, I just worry about it from that perspective. But this game didn't massively exacerbate things. I felt this way for a number of weeks, and that is, as I've said before, it's about, now that I've seen a lot of the player, a lot more than you see when he's playing at Sporting Lisbon, and seen a lot of different circumstances to the ones he's in at Sporting Lisbon. I look at the player and go, he hasn't got the qualities that I want there. I'll back him. I hope he does well. I'll support him because I'm that sort of fan generally. But yeah, as a position as a whole, you know, I almost feel like has this got any better than Eddie Nketiah? Is it that much better?
No, I think it has. I think so. There's multiple facets to this. I mean, in terms of what you just said there, I think he occupies defenders a lot better than Eddie Nketiah would do. Eddie would try and play the Havertz or try and drop deep. He'd be like an archetypal Arsenal player. So just stay up front, be up front. This guy, all he's interested is you know, leading the line, being up top, being that focal point up top, and just staying there. And so at least he occupies defenders. He creates spaces for others. So that's something we've not really had. Like you said, Havertz would drop, so either defenders and defenders would either stay there, so fine, let him drop, or one would follow deep, whatever. But you know, he does that. But what's interesting, that is, for someone that's so big, you're right. He doesn't use his body well. I think he's get easily knocked off, or he doesn't do it enough. So sometimes you'll see him bully defenders, and sometimes you think his center of gravity is all wrong, and he hasn't got, like, you know, those trunk-like legs, like MLS. You know, you just, like, you are not shifting him off the ground. It's like a dog that just doesn't want to move. I don't know if you have a dog, and you have I've got a tiny little dog. When he doesn't want to move, he doesn't move, and I have no idea how they do it, but they just can't. And I have no idea. He's got tiny legs, and he just won't budge. Yeah, and this is the thing. So yeah, you're right. I think at times he, like that moment there, be stronger, be versatile. Really, really use it. I think I don't know. He seems afraid to use his body all the time. Or he's afraid to. So yeah, I think he gets easily pushed off in situations where he shouldn't do, or he's guided away from the ball. That's the thing. And a defender can easily guide him away, and I think he needs to be stronger there. But you know, he had 2 shots saved by Leno. The second one, Martinelli could have done better in the follow-up, and then you go, oh great, he created
I liked what he did with the striker cross goal.
Yeah.
You know, that was what he did in the run at that as well. Lovely run. That's a perfect Gyokeres moment, and I think I've seen enough of him do those things that he might well score a lot of goals that way, because he's got that lovely sort of pull around the defender and then strike across the ball with a clean strike. You know, he's good at that.
So we got what you wanted to see. The first shot, you know, the one Saka set up for him, there's that one. But I think on your point as well, you know, the Havertz injury, as I said, we talked about it in the other game. The silver lining is he's integrated. We're learning about him quick. But he was not brought in to play every game, 90 minutes every game, all the game. He's played all the games, all the minutes, bar the Carabao Cup, and even then he came on for a bit. And I think so. You know, he's not used to playing against low blocks like yesterday. He's not used to, say, this quality of defence and things like that. So I think if you were to play Havertz for 60 minutes and bring him on for 30, that'd be a great combination. But him playing all the time, you know, the first few games of the season, he was getting up to speed fitness-wise. So I think there's some mitigating circumstances. I can understand we brought him in to get goals, but we're winning. He's part of a winning team. I think the goals will come. But he isn't like, you know, Liverpool spent 130 million on Isak. He's your star, number one striker. You go in, you score all the goals. He's 65 million. He's a very good squad player. You know, he wasn't brought in to be the star centre forward. He was brought in to be the complementary centre forward to Havertz. So it just hasn't worked out that way. So we haven't seen that. So you know, I'm not going to be so binary on him, because if we're winning, we're winning. And I think it will come. You know, it's a bit of a bound spell. Strikers go through this. I think it's his 9 games in all, 9 games without a goal for club and country. I think it's the worst spell he's had since Coventry. But even then, you know, Arteta talked pre-game that he needs to handle these sort of spells, and all the messaging and support is there for him. So I don't think there's too many dramas, and I think it will come good in the end. So, but yeah, he's part of a winning team, so I don't think we're carrying him. That's what I'd suggest. So there we go.
I agree. I just don't think he's necessarily adding enough either for me. And it's and again, I think actually, the goals aren't even so much of an issue for me either. I wouldn't really want to necessarily judge him entirely on goals either. It's just the eye test around the team.
Yeah,
I just don't see that he's doing some bits and he's working hard, and fair play to him. But I just don't think he's got the qualities to be a starting 9 long term this team, and that's a bit disappointing. A few months after his acquisition, after we had such a fantastic window in other respects.
Yeah. Oh well, look, we'll see. Again, I'm not putting him in the bracket of Bergkamp and Henry and all the rest of it. But Bergkamp took 10 games to get going, and then all of a sudden went on fire. Henry again took a while to get going. So a lot of these players coming in, new league, getting used to it. Sometimes it just takes a few games to adapt and get into it, and then all of a sudden you get on. He might be a streaky player, so we'll see. So yeah, I mean, not going to be down there. The interesting thing is, like, we'll talk about Atletico Madrid in a minute, but it's one thing. Do you keep him in there wanting to get the goal? Would you take him out to give him a bit of a break? And it's always a tough one, I think, for a manager, for a forward that's sort of not in form and giving our options. Yeah, I think he's just going to have to stick with him, and then we'll see what happens. And maybe something's going to give the usual goal off your ass type stuff, and away you go. And even then, yesterday, had we got the penalty, I'm pretty sure he would have. Actually, I don't know. He could have taken that, and then there we go. But anyway, so in terms of the lineup, we were sort of debating post international break. Who's fit, who's not, in terms of who's minutes. Zubimendi had a bit of time off, had missed one of the training sessions, but that's the managed load. The same for Ben White, but he went strong. I think he went with what you'd consider our strongest 11, given the team. So Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel Calafiori, Rice, Zubimendi, Eze, Trossard, Saka, Gyokeres. I think Eze playing in the 8-10 Ødegaard role and Trossard on the left wing were the only sort of debatable things. Any qualms with that lineup? Pretty much as expected.
Pretty much as expected. Yeah, I think we talked about it. And I said, I'd like to have seen a little bit more change for it, but at the same time, that was sort of what I expected to see, was he goes out with all the big guns post international break.
Yeah, and I think it's important, with his run of fixtures, to start off and get that win and get the momentum. You start off with a loss or a draw, then you're sort of catching up with yourself and all the rest of it. You want to go from going top of the league before the international break. You want to start the next set of games good, and then away we go. So no, I don't think there was any dramas around that. And all pitches are roughly the same size, but there's just that view that Fulham pitch is a bit smaller, and it is statistically smaller. So having the likes of Trossard there, where there's not going to be a huge amount of space, was more of an option than Martinelli, who's more of an open space player. And you could see when he came on. So Trossard, I think, was the right choice, unless you're playing Eze on the left and Waneri or Merino in midfield. But yeah, it was what it was. In terms of the overall game, I mean, we had 63% possession to their 37, 1.88 XG to their 0.44. We had 16 shots to their 9. We had 5 shots on target. They had 0 shots on target, and that's 2 games in a row now that we've gone without letting a shot on target, which is, I think, the first time since we won the league, since we last won the league. So that's a good omen, and just goes to show how, again, I think a lot of the game, it felt more nervy than it was, but the chances that they got were very low quality chances, not big chances. They had 0 shots on target, 0 big chances. So I think it was one of those games that felt nervy due to game state more, and felt a bit like, Fulham are playing well, but it was more to do with our sloppiness, and the chances they were having weren't easy ones. Always we had 5 shots on target, 3 big chances. All of them, I think, fell to Gyokeres, or one to Martinelli.
There was a lot of Harry Wilson working a little bit of space and then ultimately not getting a shot on target, which is very Harry Wilson. at times, and then you get the one that's a screamer that goes in, and that was the bit I was just worrying about the old time.
You're always subject to that, aren't you?
Yeah. You have those games where if he's really on it, and he was quite on it yesterday, I thought. He will work out those little tiny bits of space and very, very, very half chances. They're like, we're not talking half XG, we're talking half chances in the old way where it's small amount of XG it might be.
Yeah.
And he will just try and flash something in, right? And he sometimes when they come off, he looks like an absolute genius, and when they don't, he looks a bit like he was yesterday, where he's this busy little hare that doesn't have a great deal of end product.
And maybe this is what's changing this season. Last season, we were getting done by variance all the time. And we're playing teams when they're at their best. So Fulham were without a few starters. I think Sasilikic was a bit of a miss. I mean, Jimenez came back from injury. I think he was rested after the international break, was sorted. So I think he had a decent performance for them. Yeah. A pain in the neck type performance, a bit like what's his name for Southampton used to play against us all the time. I've forgotten the little annoying git for Southampton up front. I can't remember his name. But it was just Shane Long just was a constant pain in the neck. But he played really well. We led the line well for them. But maybe this year we're not getting done by variance now. Those chances aren't going in. So even if we are giving up something, rare. Rare.
July 40-yard free kick. Absolutely.
Exactly. So
would be the only against the run of play thing that's really happened. I think to season 8. You're absolutely spot on. It does. We're getting a shared rub of the green with opponents at the moment.
Yeah. So things on the up. So I mean, you've sort of alluded to a bit. What were your general thoughts on the game, on the performance and the result?
Well, literally just that. I think I mentioned it's quite scrappy. I thought we had more quality overall at the right moments, but and we didn't look massively stretched. Individual moments they did stretches at times. They used the width really, really well, Fulham, and they've got some really talented lads in that front four. Front three, I guess, is more of theirs. But I really like Josh King. I really like Harry Wilson. They're good little players that will, and obviously Jimenez has scored a couple of goals against us. By the way, you promised me no Jimenez. There was a Jimenez.
I didn't promise. I said maybe.
Well,
he might be out.
Well, there was another player as well. I can't remember who the other one was as well. But there were more than one player that you told me weren't going to be playing that ended up either playing or being on the bench. So anyway, it was I thought they quit themselves really, really well. Fulham. The quality wasn't high from either team, but definitely they did a really good job with their press. They snatched the ball in midfield a bunch of times. Whenever there was a loose pass, it did seem to end up, very much falling to them. And you make that sort of look. You make it with your positioning and your work ethic, and they did a really good job with that. And there are whilst they say that it was sort of low quality overall, they have some really good footballers in that team. And luckily for us, they just didn't find any moments where they were able to get that sort of extra yard or that extra little bit of space. And a big part of that is how good we are as well. I thought, defensively we were very, very solid. There was one moment where Gabriel got a dominating header off against Jimenez that just absolutely summed him up, and kind of the way that we just sort of we do look at times, I think, a little less impressive defensively than we necessarily are sometimes at the moment, because quite often it is that last challenge, but that last challenge is like always there, isn't it? It's like the way sometimes you see us blocking a shot and there's actually like 3 bodies in the way of Raya, not just one, But sometimes those defensive actions can be quite deep. That will happen at certain times. And our defensive actions were quite deep, and that's probably why it felt a little nervier than usual, because against a club that we kind of, look like we're a much better team than a Forest or a Leeds earlier on in the season, our defensive actions were far, far higher up the pitch. Whereas in this game, this was more like what happened at Old Trafford, where it looks worse. It looks like you're conceding good chances because they're much deeper. But actually, none of them were good chances.
No.
We controlled them really well. It is just what it is. We were making our defensive actions on the 18-yard, and that's just visually it looks quite different. But actually, in truth, there was very, very little for us to worry about. And then as for the rest of the game, as attacking wise, again, I think we did more at times than we necessarily looked like, and we did create a few good opportunities, but they were quite sparse, and we didn't have a moment where it looked like we were turning the screw or really turning it on, and it wasn't that eye-catching. But I'll absolutely take it. It's 3 points the week after international at Craven Cottage, where we've struggled in the past. It's a nice win. It was pretty calm. Just wasn't very fun to watch.
No. Well, no, it never is. And 1-0, I say, you always get done by variance. But after we went 1-0 up, Fulham had one shot.
Yeah.
So, it just felt more nervy than it went. And again, it's one of these games you watch back and say, where's the problem? Where's the drama? It just wasn't there. And you're right. We kept on giving away. I think Eze, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Rice were all culpable in that regard in the first half hour, and they sprung fast in numbers. So so again, threatening on the surface, but low goal probability, and they were defensively sound, defensively solid. So you say, Adi, you were really called it really well in last pod. It was going to be a tricky game, but I think for us, I mean, City had won earlier in the day, so it was important to get the win and go back on top. So and we also want to keep the pressure on Liverpool. And I feel like it's going to be like this for the rest of the season. Every game is about keeping position or taking advantage of slip-ups. And we were, when they happen, and we were there for it. And the win is what matters most. It was a very post-international performance against a defensively disciplined Fulham. It wasn't pretty, free-flowing, rhythmic football, quite disjointed and sloppy. The combinations weren't quite there. Other than Saka and Timber, who were the stars of the show, everywhere else it just very bitsy. There was no interchange, no interplay. The pass and move just wasn't quite there, and we played in moments and patches, as you said, but I think we fought hard, we kept them pushing, and so I'll take it. I'll take it. It's not so great for the nerves. I ended up doing a few chores in the last 20 minutes because I'm just pacing around and like I can't watch this. So much so that I didn't realise Ødegaard had come on as a substitute until I read the stats afterwards. So, but we were able to lean on a defensive record, lean on our set piece record, and in the cold light of day, a bigger winning margin would have been nice, and we should have had one, I suggest, but it was quite comfortable. And even look, I was just going to say what else, but Arteta sort of alluded to that. He said, no, not comfortable because it feels in this pitch like it's smaller and they are straight away on you in the box. They didn't generate any big chances. It was more the feeling sometimes, especially in the first half, with the giveaways, and because there were a lot of players with a lot of quality in the final third, and Jimenez in the box, who's a real threat. So there you go. I think Arteta summed that up nicely. So in terms of sort of key moments of the game, rather than going through the sort of the game as a whole, I think we first minutes of the first half, I think we were in control, not doing much. Fulham came back into it, and then after the 30-minute mark, it was all Arsenal. And the biggest moment of the first half, other than the various chances that we gave up, was had Calafiori's goal stood.
It should have been so lovely, which would have been so nice, wouldn't it?
Such a shame. I mean, he was miles off.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I spotted it it's one of those, you see it in real time, don't you? It's like, I mean, and also his celebration was so immediately going. It's when you're that half-hearted about scoring with such a sweet strike, don't you?
What a hit though! In the far right, first time. I mean, it was lovely. It was like crossfield, I think, from Timber.
Yeah.
First time, beautiful touch from Trossard into Calafiori. Didn't break any pace, speed, or whatever. It just hit it first time, left foot. Leno, no chance. That was just a thing of beauty. I mean, I love it, even though it's an offside goal. It's still a thing of beauty, and such a shame for him. And he's capable of that. Calafiori, our left back, offside in the centre forward position.
Well, he's had a ridiculous number of shots for us, and they've generally been quite decent. In fairness, he's scored, hasn't he? And the City goal was,
Man United. He scored he scored for us last season, but this year he scored the Man United goal. But that was like 1 yard from the header.
It wasn't City, it was United. But gorgeous goal, right? But it's either way, he's I think he's doing a doing a sterling job when he gets the opportunity around that area, and that would have been an absolute peach to add to the collection.
We'd be talking about that for a long, long time. But there we go. So we know what he's capable of, and again, it gets now in the minds of the opposition. So even we have how. What do I go to Gyokeres? Do I mark Calafiori? What do I do? So it's just, even if it doesn't go in, it's that threat, and it will be noticed. And again, occupying defenders, occupying the mind is we can. And this, you talk about boring Arsenal. That goal goes in. There's nothing boring about that bloody goal. So there we go. The one thing noticeable, I think, from the first half. And it is a very Arsenal thing. I think we need to be moving the ball faster. We need to be, when you're playing against these low blocks, you need to be pass and move, just moving around very quickly. And I think we're still a bit slow in that. And the first half, it was quite obvious that was. And again, maybe this is just first 45 minutes after the international break. People are sort of just warming into it. Don't know. We haven't been training much this week, so maybe it's the legs in it. And then we started off the second half really well. I think we were really, really positive. Trossard had a chance, should have done better. Saka, had one sort of dribble that then ended up being cleared off the line. And then eventually in the 59th minute, we get the corner. And it did come from, I think, a bit of play from Gyokeres after a nice pass from Eze. So again, contributing to towards the goal. Okay, it's the pre assist, but
his overall performance says us.
I was gonna let's anonymous. Okay, if I was going to say something, that's the one word I had for Eze. Anon in the first half, better in the second. Okay, so I think he's better off the left, be that left wing or left midfield. He's sort of asked to play central or right, which is not his natural positioning. So again, give him a mitigation for being in a new position. But with Ødegaard, we missed Ødegaard yesterday. For a game like that, we missed him. With Ødegaard, he's always available. He will find a space to be available. Eze, I didn't say he went missing. He just did not make himself available. He was sort of the Fulham did well to cut off the passing lines to him, but in that case, then you've got to go and get out of that and get out of someone else's shadow.
Yeah.
So I think there's a few things there. So better second half, first half, very anonymous.
Tremendous vision and skill that we've seen since he signed, and he feels like he's adding quite a lot. But at the same time, he also the comparison with Ødegaard's a harsh one because, as you say, he doesn't play those half spaces as well. I don't think he doesn't have the same kind of feeling around those areas, but. By the same token, he's got more directness than Ødegaard at times, and he seems more ambitious than Ødegaard at times, and he has vision to execute that too. So they're different footballers, right? But and I think they can be complementary. We'll see what happens overall with kind of where they end up playing in the strongest 11. But yeah, I thought he was a little bit quiet yesterday for me, and I think you sum it up perfectly. That it's that sort of availability at times. It doesn't necessarily feel like he's demanding the ball.
Yeah. And it's a comparison only because he's playing in that position. And I know they are different players, but something like that is not a skill thing. That's a learning, it's sort of a mindset. But then I saw something the other day and someone made a really good point. How often has Crystal Palace, when he's had to play against low blocks? So this is something really new for him, that all of a sudden he's used to playing into space because their Palace are always... maybe the secondary team in a game, or not always, but you're going to be playing teams that are going to be more open against them. Because even if you're playing similar teams, no one's going to be setting up a low block against Palace. Okay, that's just not what it is. I'm sure tactically they'll do something. So he's used to having more space around in and behind the lines and stuff like that. So again, he's adapting, he's adopting. So again, like Gyokeres, not going to be too harsh on him. We win, you learn, you move on, and I think he will. I think he's intelligent enough and old enough to do that. But a good pick out there. So again, So back to the goal again. Gabriel making a distance, and I saw a stat the other day. Since Gabriel Magalhaes arrived in the Premier League, he has more goal contributions from corners, 17, than Leicester City as a whole, 16. Which is quite cool. I mean, just his desire to get to the ball first is like second to none. It's great. And they did a good piece on the Sky afterwards with Sidwell and Redknapp, and they just showed it. And there's no stopping him. And Leandro Trossard,
he uses his body. Oh,
you have him running at you.
Absolutely phenomenal. He is. Yeah. I mean, that's just He was great. And the best player is, of course, it falls down to Trossard. It's just such a Trossard game, that, by the way. Like, he was fairly shy, actively shy for a lot of stuff. Real sort of Trossard area game, and then of course he pops up with that. And in between that, per usual, he will have those odd moments where he just like does something that looks really nice, but overall output was naff until the point where he just scores the winning goal. And it's story of Leo's time at the Arsenal, this, isn't it? You have the games where he looks absolutely magical, and then he ultimately squanders a couple of chances he makes for himself. And then you have the games where he's absolutely bloody useless, and then he pops up and scores. And fair play to him. It was lovely.
Yeah, right time, right place, and that's very Trossard. It sort of reminds me of the goal he should have scored against Villa when we ended up losing 2-0. And had he scored, we would have been winning the league. But there you go. Those are those days. And so that's he's the 10th different player to score for Arsenal in the Premier League this season. And the last 8 goals, the Gunners have all been netted by different players. So I wouldn't say that's boring. Anyway, okay.
Making it very difficult to hold on to anyone that's not a defender in the FPL.
Absolutely. And then, we have to get to the sort of bit of controversy. The penalty for Arsenal. Well, I thought it was Saka running across the edge of the box. This was in the 65th minute. Tackled by Kevin. Anthony Taylor gives the penalty, but VAR decide to intervene. I think I know what you're going to say, but go on. Penalty? No penalty?
For me, it's just not a penalty. It's there is a.
I knew it.
There is a. I mean,
have you not seen the photo I sent in the WhatsApp group?
Yes, I have, and I totally disagree.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter. The in order for it to be a foul, the challenge has to meet one of several. That challenge needs to not meet one of several criteria set out in the laws of the game. And to me,
which is don't be an Arsenal player.
Now I really don't appreciate conspiratorial crap.
I'm joking. I tell you what, the only clear and obvious mistake that was made yesterday was giving the Arsenal a penalty. But there we go.
Well, I mean, look, I just felt if you look at the actual challenge, it's not endangering Saka in any way. It's not reckless. It's not careless. And he's not impeding Saka with his action without making without making a genuine challenge for the ball. Though it's in combination of all those things that you would be in a position to be able to award a penalty. And you can see that in real time. I mean, I'll be honest, in real time, I didn't think it was a pen either. In real time, I thought, he's really looked for that. And actually, in slow-mo, I got more convinced it could be a penalty.
Yes, 100%.
I think it's the way around to some people. But nonetheless, I still felt it wasn't, because this whole thing about what you touch first, there is absolutely zero merit in it. It's a mitigating factor in referees' directives. It is not about whether something is a foul or not. There is no law in the game that says you get the ball first, it's a penalty. It's not a penalty. That is not a thing. It is a means of assessing whether something was reasonable and a genuine attempt to go for the ball versus the willful impeding of a player. So, that for me is the issue. I look at that challenge and I go, and I'll be honest though, I do think soft penalties and penalties that contravene the actual rules of the game are given on a regular basis based on this whole kind of interpretation and some of those directives that exist in the world of refereeing. But for me, I look at that and just go, no, I think Saka's been subject to a good challenge there. I think the fella's come through. He's got enough on the ball. Again, I've just said it myself there about he's got enough on the ball. But again, it's indicative of the fact that the player has made a genuine attempt at the ball and executed it fairly well. And was it a bit on the line? Yeah, it was a risky challenge for that boy. I tell you now, I don't know why anybody makes that challenge against Bukayo Saka in that particular position where he's rolling them, because none of them bloody win it normally. It's so rare because he uses his body so bloody brilliantly, doesn't he, Saka, when he goes across players. But he does manage to, just about execute that challenge in such a way that I do not think in any way, shape or form that his action is purely impeding Saka. His challenge itself has merit.
Okay.
You're allowed to challenge for the ball. Simple as that. And you're allowed the players. It's a bloody contact sport. Like, let's not forget.
Yeah. Okay. So my one thing on that, and before the bigger issue is that I think he goes through Saka to get to the ball. So that is a foul. If you do that outside, that's a foul. So he takes his knee out.
No, where is that a foul? Tell me where in the laws of the game that's a foul. No, tell me, honestly.
Okay.
Because it's not in 12.
He impedes Saka. Yeah, he impedes Saka by kicking his knee, or his knee disrupts Saka's movement, and
your bodies are allowed to touch each other. You are footballers playing football. Okay. You're allowed.
All right.
What you're not allowed to do normally when you say players going through, and again, it's this conflation of how we talk about fouls versus the actual laws of the game. We talk about players going through players and therefore affecting a foul, but there's nothing that says you can't go through a player. It says you're not. What would happen is the majority of the time, when you do go through a player to get to the ball, it would be reckless endangerment of the other player, or it would be impeding that player in the first instance before the point at which you've won the ball. Now, the thing with this one, as I say, is they are almost simultaneous. The two of them happen at the one time. I don't think it's reckless. It's not endangering. And for me, as I say, it's not. He hasn't made that action in order to impede Saka. The intent is something to be judged in that particular one, and the intent is very clearly to get his foot on the ball because he does manage to.
Okay, so therefore, then the second part of that was subjective foul, not foul. I understand what you're saying and all the rest of it. Was it a clear and obvious area? Therefore, subject to VAR review.
I actually thought it was, because I thought he was very hasty and going straight to the whistle. Okay. And I think if you slow that one, if you have the benefit of hindsight on that one, I think it is. For me, it was. As I say, I'm looking at it as objectively as possible and
that's good.
Into the relevant rules and say I do not think that meets the mustard.
Okay.
I think there's it has a whiff about it because of some of the crap that we see given elsewhere, but for me it doesn't pass the test.
Okay. No, fair enough. It's good to have an alternative view, because the majority of what you see online and all the rest of it from Arsenal fans is, one, he took Saka out, and two, was it clear and obvious? But I think that's a very, very well put alternative to that, and I had an inkling that might be where you stood, and that's fine. And look, ultimately, it did make a difference. As I said, Fulham only had one shot thereafter, whereafter we scored. I mean, they did bring on Traore and Iwobi on the right hand side, were looking dangerous. I mean, I always get worried by Traore, and then I remember it's Traore, and so there's
Traore is something to worry about when we had Kolasinac up against and I watched that very closely at one point with Wolves versus Arsenal, and that is a horrible thing to watch because I didn't really worry too much when he came on, to be honest.
Yeah. And look, we saw the game out. I mean, Fulham had a few corners. We had a few corners. I said Martinelli could have done better with the shot after Leno saved on Gyokeres, and maybe could have done better to seal it in the 92nd minute. And I think we've said multiple times that it felt more nervy than in reality it was. So game over. That's 5 wins in all comps, which is something we didn't achieve last season. Another clean sheet, and again that's 5. Already this season, only 3 goals conceded, 1 from open play in the Premier League, and we're back to top of the league, which is good to see. And also another game from last season where we dropped points, which we're making up, like West Ham, like Newcastle, now Fulham. That sort of 9 points where last season we only got 1. So and I think in total we're about 5 up on last season on the respective games. So that's pretty good to see. And look, before we finish this section and move on to Atletico Madrid, we can't not mention Saka. man of the match. He was my man of the match. I think he was Sky's man of the match. I haven't seen anyone else. Timber was up there as well, but Saka, he FOTMob 8.5 rating, but I don't know too much about the FOTMob rating. But he had most dribbles, 6 in the match, most chances, 6 created, 6. He was the most fouled player 5 times, and he won the most duels, 14 in the match. And just in general, he was a threat down the right. He was looking back to his best. He had that moment of control. Okay, we didn't have the end product, but he was just a danger all the time. And look, it was his corner. And he even admitted himself that the corners were poor up until that point. But that one was just perfect. And again, accumulation of corners, and eventually it's going to give. So, yeah. Any words on Saka's performance yesterday?
I mean, it's one of the most basic man of the matches, isn't it? Because he just was the best player on the pitch. And it was simple as that. Like, it wasn't, and his corner, obviously, as you say, led to the goal, but he doesn't get credited with the assist. But yeah, he was just better than everybody else on the pitch, I thought, yesterday. From an on the ball perspective, at least, anyway. Off the ball, there's a case we made for a few other players as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I said his combination play with Timber was pretty good. I think that was the most effective part of our pitch and most dangerous. And look, sort of on that, actually, here's an interesting stat. On that fact, Saka was fouled the most times yesterday. According to stats, Declan Rice has not been fouled once this season, which for a midfielder is nuts. So so he's either not getting involved, or not holding on to, or he's getting rid of the ball quickly. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting stat that I found yesterday. So
he's just okay, mate. They don't fancy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's too good. They can't get the ball off him, and he gets rid of it quickly. All right, good stuff. So that's it. Top of the league, 1-0, job done. We'll forget about this and we'll move on to Palace next week. But before, and that's also part 1 of the Kronek Khan double header done. So now it's time for the LA Rams to inflict more pain on Khan later on today. And you'll see I've got my Aaron Donald 99 shirt ready to be worn later.
Very nice, yeah.
So one of the best defensive tackles in the history of the NFL. But anyway, we won't. I was gonna do a little section on do a bit of preview of the game, but I don't think we've got time. You've got to go for a haircut, so and I'm not too sure how many people are interested in hearing about Puka Nakura's injury or Tutu Atwell and Devontae Adams.
A few minutes review of it, I'm sure it'll be good fun. We'll do that instead.
Okay, well, so look, if you've got no interest in NFL, move on. What are your thoughts on today's game, the Rams versus the Jags?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm very much looking forward to going to it. I haven't looked so much at team news. So you mentioning Puka Nakura and injury is immediate of concern because Puka Nakura would be one of the difference makers in the two. To be honest, I expect to see the Rams outclass the Jags by quite a distance. To be completely frank, they're just all round. The Rams have a team that I rather enjoy seeing. They've got a fantastic coach in Sean McVay, and just quite a fun organisation. You could do with an Aaron Donald. You still feel like you don't have a big difference maker on in quite the way that you might have before.
Jared Verse is stepping up.
Verse is incredible. Yeah.
And he's only worked. He was a rookie last year, so it's only his first proper season.
No, that is true. I mean, Jared Verse is absolutely fantastic. I'd still love to see you get his Aaron Donald's nephew as well, who is not anywhere near as good, but I just think it'd be a really lovely story. But no, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what to seeing what you can do. But for me, it's going to be like I'm probably going to place a bet in a little bit, and I'm going to go like 14 over or 15.
Wow.
I do not like the Jags very much at all, and I don't think they're a very good football team. So
the only thing is that I think they're a good running side, and we're not great at stopping the run this season. We've not been great. So we're great. We're great at rushing the passer
as well. Even though he's a smaller nose tackle, he was very, very, he was very impressive against the run. And you've never plugged up that middle to me.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So we're great at rushing the QB, and we're great at getting sacks and the passing game. And the thing with Lawrence is that if he doesn't, he gets exposed. And Lawrence being the quarterback for the Jags, if he doesn't release the ball quickly, we're on him. And last week he was getting hit loads last week, so we can attack him. But the running game, we seem to be too exposed for people that get a lot of yardage on us in their run game. But we'll see. So both teams 4-2. We should be 6-0, but that's another story. both got playoff aspirations. So yeah, should be a bit of fun. So let's hope it's 2-0 to Kronek by the end of the day.
I'm looking forward. I do look forward to seeing Trevor Lawrence as well in the flesh.
Yeah.
Do you know the film Remember the Titans?
I've heard of it, but I don't know it. I need to watch it.
Best American football films ever made. But it's set in like the 60s during segregation, and there was a point where a long-haired hippie quarterback who's gorgeous and has long blonde hair gets brought in. And Trevor Lawrence just reminds me of that all the time. So I find it really hard to watch him without thinking.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he's a bit more emo. I thought the long-haired hippie would be the Chargers quarterback, and I always get Lawrence and the Chargers quarterback mixed up.
Oh, what's his name?
Yes.
Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I always get those two mixed up because they're sort of similar age, similar laid-back style.
Yeah.
Obviously look completely different, but he's more of a surfer dude.
Right, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
No. Anyway, that was just me. Yeah, for whatever reason, I've just always related him to him.
Okay. Right. So we got a very quick. You got 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Right. Okay. So Atletico Madrid. Sorry for the NFL chat. Right. Not looking forward to anything?
I think this could be a real underestimate game. I think, as we covered somewhat last week, right? I personally think they're still Atletico Madrid. They're still very good. They'll be bringing a decent side over. And I think this is a real underestimated at your peril. What do I look forward to? I do not expect us, Mikel Arteta or this team, to underestimate them whatsoever. I think if anybody is going to underestimate them, it will just be the fan base. They are. It's going to be a real test, and it's going to be the best test that we've had in Europe since the last campaign. And that's something to look forward to. I think that's something to enjoy and relish somewhat. Honestly, I'm really, really intrigued by it. So it's a game where.
Are you going? You got a ticket?
I'm not actually. I can't go to this. Well, I thought I was not going to be able to go. I didn't go in the ballot because I was meant to be working in Dublin this week. But actually, as it happens, I've now cancelled those plans. So annoyingly, I could have gone now, but I think I'm going to enjoy just having the week off and watching it at home.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I think it should be a fun Champions League night against one of the bigger teams that we haven't done for a while. Even if they aren't as good as us or as good as previous years, shall we say. Not looking forward to a Simeone team coming to stink the place out. And also I think these are two managers with very similar mindsets. Want to control the defense. Want to sort of control the controllables. Don't let anything pass at the back, and then see what happens up front. We know what he's like. We know how his teams play. It's going to be hard. It's going to be gnarly. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting game. And in terms of how we approach it from a lineup perspective, I think it's going to be quite interesting. Marino is going to play somewhere, whether he's up front instead of Gyokeres, or if he's in the midfield and Eze goes left. I think Marino's plays full stop.
It makes a lot of sense. I think, I've had the same thoughts on this one.
Yeah, and I think potentially MLS comes in for Calafiori. MLS is good in Europe, and just maybe the way they play. Then maybe Nelly on the right wing, because again he's another sort of decent European player. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's two or three changes. On the left. I wouldn't be surprised if there's two or three changes. It very much depends where Eze ends up. Even if he's on the bench. I wouldn't be surprised at that. And then we've got, again, great options from the bench. And so,
I don't really want to see us do a Marino Rice Subi midfield though, and that's more of a. I think we will have a reasonable amount of the ball against them, and I do think you need somebody with a bit of magic to unlock Atletico.
But that's why you put Eze out left. So therefore, that's why if you do Marino in the midfield, you put Eze out left.
Yeah. I'd still rather somebody central. I mean. Yeah, but I appreciate your point. I agree on the Marino front. I think it's very likely he'll be in there. And I think that is actually probably the most likely way that we line up. But I worry a little bit about not having somebody who's going to kind of push a button to unlock them a little bit in midfield there. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, maybe just be in the game 60, 70 minutes, and then you might bring on something else. So we'll see. In terms of Atletico Madrid, Champions League, played a couple of games. They had that 3-2 sort of ding-dong match with Liverpool, came back from 2-0 down to be 2-2, and then a Virgil van Dijk goal in the 92nd minute, which actually came from a set piece, which Slot conveniently forgot about. Apparently they don't score from set pieces. And then they had an easy 5-1 win at home against Eintracht Frankfurt, so not a lot to go on. In La Liga, they won 1-0 at home last night against mid-table Osasuna. I think they played a pretty much full-strength team by the looks of things. It was pretty, they dominated the game, but gave up some chances. But they also had quite a few chances. So it's sort of similar-ish to us last night. Their standout result in La Liga. So in La Liga, they're fourth. Played 9, won 4, drawn 4, lost 1, scored 16, let in 10. So scoring and they do score, but they do let in goals. The standout result was 5-2 in the Madrid derby. They beat Real Madrid 5-2 at home. But they've not won away, and they've either drawn or lost away, so don't seem to be great on the road. And then they've sort of got 4th v 5th at the weekend. I don't think that'll play into their minds at all. It's Tuesday; they'll have plenty of time, so I don't think they'll worry about it. In terms of players, it's funny, they've got lots of players that we recognise, but they're all just getting older and older. So I think so Griezmann, is he still playing? He's up front. You've got Koke in the middle, Oblak in goal, Lenormand in defence, Llorente on in midfield. So some familiar players, and then Alvarez up front, so the ex-City player. So they've got some decent players, but there's what I think. I think the manager, and he's been there since December 2011, so he's been there ages. I think knowing the manager and knowing how he sets up their teams, it'll be tricky. I just don't think they've got the same players and the same quality as they had in the past. That's why I'm not so big on them compared to what you do. But then they've got that experience and history, so that's why I'm maybe a bit more, how should I say, confident, shall we say? Not being disrespectful. In terms of,
it's not a scary lineup like it used to be. It's not, but it's just a Simeone coach team with a I will say with a fantastic striker. I absolutely love the Alvarez. I think he's very, very good, and he's done really well there. So that's by far the biggest danger man from their perspective.
Yeah. He's scored 6 goals so far in the league. Griezmann only 1, and Alexander Sørloth with 2. In terms of our head-to-head, last time we played was 2018 in that the Europa League semi-final. There was that annoying game at the Emirates where they went down to 10 men after 10 minutes, and we were thinking, oh, great, we're going to get 2-3 goals, and final we go. We did go 1-0 up with Lacazette in the 61st, and then Griezmann, annoyingly, it was such an annoying goal to give away. I remember it breaking away and to make it 1-1, and then in Madrid we lost 1-0, and that was the game that Koscielny did his Achilles, and so that was a real blow. And I think we recovered from that, and Diego Costa bullied his way to a first half goal, and they just did Atletico Madrid things, and kept us out. So we got something to we got some payback, even though it is 7 years ago. So right, prediction, and then we can go.
I'm going to have 1-0 Arsenal.
1-0 to the Arsenal. Sounds familiar.
Well, I'm taking the opportunity because quite often 1-0 has been taken whenever I've fancied it in our predictions rounds. So if I'm getting in there first, I'm going straight to the 1-0. That'll do.
Okay, I'm going to go 2-0. 2-0 to the Arsenal. There we go. I know it feels like PSG last year. A good team coming to us, we dominate. They're not great travellers, and they've got plenty of time in the rest of the league stage to make up for it. So I'm going 2-0.
All makes sense.
Okay. So thanks. Tried to rush that one through. Sorry if it seemed a bit rushed at the end. So right, I will see you in a couple of hours, and so on at Wembley. Looking forward to that. So thank you for joining me this morning. As for the rest, you can follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, Insta, TikTok, yada, 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 at the Grove AFC. So drop us a comment, like, and all that thing. Next pod, we will post Atletico Madrid, pre-Palace at home. I think it'll be Wednesday. And yeah, that'll be it. So, as always, thank you for listening. And until the next time, come on the Rams and come on you Gunners.
I was going to say that myself. There we are.
There we go.